Crunch time. We got two sports, one show, three-man booth, and producer Steve. I'm the loot chair. We got Will Priester and TJ Zwarich, and we got a messy football game and a bunch of NBA news. Hit that like button. I'll send it over to you, Chief. What's going on, Will Priester? How are you?
Nothing much, man. I didn't do a whole lot of talking pre-show. You were catching me in focus mode. I mean, I got, lineups that I needed to get in on some of the prop sites and stuff like that. And so I was trying to get that knocked out before we got rolling here. And it should be an interesting crunch time. Little combo action, NFL, NBA. I'm excited.
Combo action. TJ Zwarich is back, and we just had him on Food for Thought recently, and that was a good show. A lot of hot takes. Your Saints are in for an ugly game this week, according to Vegas, but tonight's game might be just as ugly.
Yeah, we got ugly weather all over the NFL this week. It's funny. Roth has been talking about how in his 10 years of covering NFL weather, this is like the worst weather weekend he's ever covered before. And I'm looking at these forecasts thinking, well, damn, this is basically just how I played all of my high school football games in. It's like minus 25 Fahrenheit here right now. There's snow everywhere. So I'm ready for this stuff. I'm ready to translate that into some DFS winnings. And, this is my second time. Doesn't matter what sport we're talking about. This is my second time linking up with the two of you this week after the Food for Thought pod. So I'm blessed and ready to talk some sports.
That sounds miserable. What do you pay for your heat bill up there? You're in Vancouver, right? Vancouver-ish area?
No, it doesn't snow much in Vancouver, much at all. It rarely gets below 32 in Vancouver, but I'm in Saskatchewan. Yeah,
I thought I was just spitting out all the Canadian province areas that I am familiar with, and I vaguely remember you either saying Vancouver or Saskatchewan. I know they're drastically, completely different areas, but
my sister does live in Vancouver.
Oh well, there you have it. So at least I know where some of those Wariches are, I guess, up north. Anyway, hit that like button. Get in the RotoGrinders Discord. We're going to look there first for questions, but drop them wherever you feel like it. But I know TJ has got an eye in our Discord chat. Well,
we're not even going to think about answering YouTube questions today until we hit 50 likes. So make sure you're hitting the like button.
Hit that like button. What he said. He's been giving us some good low-owned plays lately. We had a bunch of news. We'll cover NBA first since it locks first, and we'll slowly trickle into NFL, and we'll take some questions as we go for hoops. 2-game slate. You got New Orleans, and you got San Antonio, and then you have Washington and Utah. And there's injury implications everywhere on this little 2-game slate. Of course, for the Pelicans, the big ones, Zion is out, Brandon Ingram's out, and then across the court, Keldon Johnson is doubtful / out. Is there actual confirmation that he's out? I mean, he's doubtful. He's
out.
Yeah. So there's no Keldon there. Thoughts on? Let's start with the Spurs here. How much of a bump do you feel Devin Vassell and Trey Jones get? I know they're, the prices are getting up there a little bit, but are you prioritizing these Spurs? TJ, I'll throw it over to you first.
Yeah, I'm prioritizing both of those two today. I think they're not necessarily even though it's a 2-game slate, we got so much value with Porzingis out, Avdia out, Nance out, that I don't know how much of a priority the team is as a whole. Like, they're kind of a priority alongside Washington and New Orleans in this one. But yeah, I'm getting to a lot of Vassell. I'm getting to a lot of Trey Jones. Chief, do you want to handle more GPPs or cash today when we go through the builds?
Who's playing NBA cash today?
You're right. But we still got to give the optimal standpoint.
I'll take GPPs.
All right. I'll talk optimal in this one. I get the easy job then. I still do have a hot GPP take to get in, but I'll kind of go through Meansy's core plays and handle that part.
Well, as Bill in the chat pointed out, and you mentioned Larry Nance is out too. So what does that mean? Who else do we have? Do we have Hernan Gomez? Do we have Jackson Hayes? It gives some more of these other sidecar pieces of the Pelicans team even more of a bump. Najee Marshall is super cheap. Let me flip it over to Fanduel. I mean, the Marshall, Herbert Jones, Trey Murphys of the world, they're cheap on both sides, and that also opens the door for either Jackson Hayes or Hernan Gomez to probably get some run, you would think here. So let's go over to FanDuel. So we have to start there because that's where a lot of the, ideal, I guess, safer-ish value is. You can see the FanDuel pricing here. Trey Murphy's 52. I mean, still fairly priced for the role he has in the matchup. Herbert Jones, 51. Not as cheap as the other site, but still pretty affordable. Najee Marshall, 4,600. Dyson Daniels, I know he's a Zorich favorite for tournaments pretty typically. So most of this New Orleans team is in play, and I mean, if you want to start with optimal plays, you got to start with the two most expensive guys on my screen share on New Orleans right now, TJ.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. Let's pull up Meansy's core plays here and plug those ones into our lineup build. He's got CJ McCollum, Devin Vassell, Trey Jones, and Najee Marshall. I agree with all three of those 100%. And then that kind of fills up two of our three guard spots. And I think you're probably going to want to play CJ McCollum at point guard today, because you're going to want to get Bradley Beal in there at the shooting guard position. I think those four are necessary in guard in cash games / optimals. And while I know not too many people are playing cash games today, I do think it's a pretty easy way to plug in something optimal, play a lot of triple ups, quintuple ups, that type of thing, and really build your bankroll on a situation like this where we got a lot of clear plays. Shifting over to small forward, we do have Najee Marshall as a core play. I agree with that. The next one we're playing at that spot, I think, is either Trey Murphy or Herbert Jones. Like, you're going to be getting a lot of, if we have questions today about how many Pelicans can I play, I think you're probably going to be playing 5 on DraftKings and 4 on FanDuel, maybe 4 on both. But I think you're looking at Murphy, Herb Jones, or at this other spot here, probably, because while I absolutely love Kyle Kuzma, I'd rather play him at power forward. Markkanen's fine. Markkanen's nice, but I'd probably rather play him at power forward. And then if you want to go cheap, your guy today is probably going to be Corey Kispert. As we shift over to the power forward position, Kuzma is very important. I think he is a cash game lock today. I do prefer him over Lauri Markkanen straight up. And then your other power forward position here, if you're paying up, you're looking at Lauri Markkanen. If you're paying down, you're looking at Bates Diop if you have 4-7. Or if you got to go down even more, you're probably looking at somebody like a Doug McDermott as kind of like your last piece in here. But I think you want to try and get all the way up to Markkanen or to Bates Diop. And then at the center position, Jonas Valanciunas is without a doubt the cash game play today. No Larry Nance probably means he's going to be closing this game as long as it's not a blowout or barring foul trouble. So JV is the cash game play there. And then really my only tournament takes is like you mentioned, I don't mind Dyson Daniels and Jose Alvarado, but for me, the tournament play of the slate is Willie Hernan Gomez. And I like getting to a lot of Daniel Gafford at the center position instead of JV, pairing him with Willie Hernan Gomez. I think that's a great way to get different in tournaments. That's basically all I got for that.
So let me ask you this. I'll flip it over to tournaments. Chief, we got the Pelicans lineup. We don't have Jackson Hayes playing. Sometimes he runs the 4 sometimes, but that's not the case. So Hayes and Hernan Gomez both coming off the bench, it looks like, or I should say are available off the bench. So what's your interest with these guys? We know they're big point per minute producers. Theoretically, perhaps one of them should see some decent run for a mid-price player on a 2-game slate. Any interest in Jackson Hayes or Hernan Gomez with Larry Nance not playing?
Yeah, I think if you're in tournaments, like, you need to be getting, real exposure now. At least as of right now, we really don't have them with hardly any ownership at all, at least currently. So for me, like, this is one of those weird spots to attack. Like, just put them in 7-8% of your lineups and see what happens. If one of them happens to end up being the guy, that comes off the bench and puts up 30 fantasy points, then you're looking really good at the end of the night. So I definitely think those are 2 guys you get some exposure to on the light end. I think people are going to play Jose Alvarado regardless. I don't feel like he's someone that's going to go overlooked here. Ownership isn't reflecting that completely, but I don't. I don't think he goes overlooked. Like especially on DraftKings where he's 3,400. Like I think he's going to be higher on the 12% for what it's worth.
Okay. Spurs side, TJ mentioned some Spurs. Kind of feel like Doug McDermott is going to be pretty much not owned. And, is it unlikely he has a ceiling game and can outscore some of this New Orleans value? Maybe not. However, he is a little bit cheaper on FanDuel than, he's 4,100 on FanDuel. And outside of Marshall, these other Pelicans guys are in the 5K range, and Dyson Daniels, of course. I think I just would certainly not on either site play Hernan Gomez and Jackson Hayes in the same lineup. If neither one of them starting, I just want to get lucky, have some exposure to both, and have a max one build rule. Hope one has a ceiling game. TJ, you're kind of shaking your head. You agree with me there?
Yeah, I agree with you 100% there. There's not honestly that much more to cover on FanDuel, so we might as well make the switch to DraftKings since we do got to do some NFL here as well. And we got a couple QQs in the Discord about DraftKings. We got 160 people watching on YouTube now. Make sure you hit the like button. Free content, courtesy of FanDuel. We want to be keeping them as a sponsor, and we're also going to hit the premium members in Discord first. So if you want us to hit your QQs on YouTube, hit that like button. Let's get over 50 likes, and then we'll start hitting QQs there as well. But let's go over the cash build quick here on DK. Pull up Meansy's core plays. See what he's got for us here on DraftKings, how they differ on FanDuel and DraftKings, if you don't mind clicking that up for us, Luch. We've got CJ McCollum, Jonas Valanciunas, Najee Marshall. Where Najee Marshall is 3-7 here, I would honestly just be, no matter how many lineups I was playing, I'd be locking him into every single one of these. We got CJ McCollum at the point guard position. We also have Jordan Clarkson and Trey Jones there, who both project well. I like Trey Jones a little bit better, so we could potentially use them at the guard position, whereas Clarkson we can also use at the shooting guard. Bradley Beal, I think, is the play I want to be getting to at the shooting guard position. $8,100, just so cheap over there. And things do get tough when we get to small forward because we got Markkanen, Vassell, Trey Murphy, Herb Jones, so many of these other guys that we want to play. Plus, we got Najee Marshall already in our lineup, either at small forward or power forward. So my preference of that group, I rank them Devin Vassell number 1, Trey Murphy number 2, Herb Jones number 3, and Lauri Markkanen number 4. That's kind of how I rank those guys for cash games at the small forward position. At the power forward, you do have the opportunity to play Kyle Kuzma. I think you're either going all the way up there or you're paying down for either Marshall in that spot or Herb Jones. If I'm choosing between Markkanen or Kuzma, I am choosing Markkanen in that spot. And then we have Jonas Valanciunas as a core play in the center position. He is a necessity there for us. And then at the utility, I do think Walker Kessler and Daniel Gafford are both, and even Jakob Poeltl are viable flex options for tournaments, for cash games. But I do really like Walker Kessler and Daniel Gafford in tournaments. I think pivoting off of JV is the most interesting thing you could do for tournaments. And a 3K Hernan Gomez, come on, I'd be getting a ton of that over on DraftKings.
Yeah, I like those calls quite a bit. You covered a lot of ground there, and it makes a lot of sense. I think for tournaments, Chief, what are you thinking here? We had some late news of Denny getting ruled out for Washington, as well as Porzingis, and you can see I was messing around with the player pool earlier, so let me just include everybody again.
9 more likes on YouTube before we can head things over there. And we do have a question in Discord about cash, so I'll hit on that one quick. Well, you got to love Steve throwing the nice please in there since I'm demanding it so aggressively on the screen for us. QQ for DK Cash, Trey Murphy, and Hernan Gomez, or Herb Jones and Najee Marshall. That's Herb Jones and Najee Marshall by a lot. I love Hernan Gomez for tournaments, but he is not a cash game play.
No, not a cash gameplay. We don't know what his role is going to be.
He could play 0 minutes.
He could play 0 minutes. That is true. So a little bit sketchy for sure. I think this is a rare night where I'm willing to eat a ton of salary too. I don't know about you, but I'm willing to eat some significant salary in NBA tonight. What do you guys think about that?
I think that's totally fine, especially like in cash. I don't think you need to, but for tournaments, I think that's a very reasonable option. 5 more likes before we can hit QQs over there. Chief, what do you think?
Yeah, man. 5 more likes. Let's get it.
But what do you think about leaving salary on the table tonight?
Well, I'm always in the camp of leaving salary on the table. I've left over $1,000 on the table in NBA and taken down a tournament. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I happened to nuts, had the right game stack. I think it was a Charlotte Washington game stack, and I had like $1,100 left, and I said, just gonna let it ride. And lo and behold, the end of the night, it was $100K coming to my bank account. So I'm always in the leave salary on the table camp. It's never a problem. Now, look, my 3K guy kind of went off that night, so he put up a score of someone that would have been 6K. You know what? But the point is, it still hit because nobody played him. You know, so I'm good.
Especially on a 2-game slate where all you need to do is have one position different than somebody else to be able to take down a tournament today. We have another cash question in the Discord. Only need 2 more likes on YouTube, so make sure you're hitting that like button. Clarkson and Kuzma, or Alvarado and Markkanen. I think that's Clarkson and Kuzma in cash. And we also did get a wonky starting lineup today for the Spurs. And it's Jones, Vassell, Romeo Langford, Jeremy Sohan, Jakob Poeltl. I don't think we need the value of Langford and Sohan on DraftKings. Like if you're running a ton of lineups, yes, you're still keeping them in your pool. But for cash, I don't think you need them. For Fanduel cash, I do think it makes Jeremy Sohan as kind of the most interesting pivot there off of Keita Bates-Diop, and that's somewhere you could just go in cash instead of that.
The ceiling of these Pelicans role players are significantly higher than those Spurs that are starting. The value Spurs, I should call them, regardless. But these cheap Pelicans, great matchup, and they're 4 to 5K players playing in roles now, and will probably have increased usage bumps where they, in theory, right now should be priced in the 65 to 8K range with probably the role they're going to have tonight. So I think, when you're uncomfortably leaving some salary on the table, you got to think about it that way, like the mega minutes and the usage and the matchup that some of these Pelicans are going to have. Don't be afraid to leave some money on the table. For the Wizards, without Porzingis, without Denny, like we're talking large field tournaments. What do both of you guys think about someone like Will Barton? Is Gafford checks out as a really nice play. He's, getting a little expensive now as well. Like anybody else in Washington, you mentioned Kispert, TJ, like Chief, any of these Wizards for large field tournaments outside of Kuzma and Beal you're looking at?
Yeah. I mean, I'm always going to be in. It's a 2-game slate. Like I try not to insult people. You know what I mean? But I also try to encourage them. Like if you've been following RotoGrinders, on a 2-game slate, anything goes, and you need to. The only way you're going to get different is by playing Jordan Goodwin because he's not optimal today. Which Rui Hachimura will probably end up being slightly optimal. You may even want to take a shot. Don't laugh, please. Don't laugh at me, people. You may want to squeeze in some Taj Gibson to your tournament builds. And I'm not saying have him at 25%. I'm saying a 10% Taj Gibson gets you 25 tonight at 3K, and you were able to get in 2 3K guys that both went 20 plus, and then everybody else does their job at the end of the night. You could be looking at a GPP takedown, and we have Taj Gibson. He's probably going to end up being projected for, I would guess, 3 to 5% by the time this thing is all over with. But he was basically being projected for virtually no ownership. And people don't want to play Taj Gibson. He's old. He's slow. As far as we're concerned, he still plays for the Chicago Bulls. But he's moved around. I think you get him in, and so that's where my tournament bills are going to come in. You've got Colin Sexton on a slight minutes limit. Who's to say he doesn't come in and torch Washington in 20 minutes? As an example, right? Like nobody wants to play Colin Sexton tonight. It's 2-game slate. Play a little bit of Colin Sexton, and you don't have to sacrifice playing the Beals, the Devin Vassals, the CJ McCollum. You don't have to sacrifice those guys. You just add them into your builds, and let it go from there.
Personally, I can't believe Gibson's in his 75th season in the league. It's kind of hard to believe. Time flies when you're having fun, I guess. TJ, got any Discord questions, or should we move on to NFL?
Yeah, I got a few stuff that we'll have to get in quick. So in terms of that value we were just talking about, I think it's very specific, especially on FanDuel, as to where I want to go with that, because there's multiple players at the point guard, shooting guard, small forward, and center position that I just want to get a ton of. That's where I struggle for somebody like a Taj Gibson, is just because I really just see like Pirtle, Valanciunas, Kessler, or Gafford are probably just going to 8x their salary today. And so I really think that's a valuable position. But the FanDuel power forward, it's gross. You got Vanderbilt's got a high ceiling, but very volatile. Markin and Kuzma, great plays. It's kind of hard to get both of them. After that, it's just nasty. Real tough pickings here. That's why I love Willie Hernan-Gomez. You just simply don't play a 60% owned JV, and you do play Willie Hernan-Gomez, and you're super different. Rui Hachimura is a shot I would take on Washington, even though he hasn't played in forever. He's probably not going to play a ton of minutes. He might play backup center today, and those could be very valuable minutes. And so, and then Doug McDermott is somebody that I'd want to go to as well. And then Discord, we got a question, DK Cash, Murphy and Clarkson, or Alvarado and Markkanen. That's Murphy and Clarkson. In a FanDuel GPP, Chief, what do you think of Zach Collins or Hernan-Gomez? Chief?
Man. Yeah, I'm here.
I think it's on a bit of a delay.
Yeah, give me Hernan-Gomez for like the deep GPP stuff, because Collins is going to play, but I don't know if he's going to do enough to actually help you. Like he's pushing 5K now, and so yeah, I think you go with Hernan-Gomez. I think he's got more upside. Yeah.
And then we also got another one here. FanDuel GPP, Kuzma or Markkanen. I'm stuck. For me, that is Kuzma by quite a bit. Do you guys think Rudy Gay is valuable as a last piece in a DraftKings GPP? 3,300.
Yeah, he's cheaper. I mean, he's played 18 minutes. Like you're gonna have to hope for vintage Rudy Gay. Like I'm talking about Memphis Rudy Gay to show up and play for 18 minutes.
If I kind of think this Pelicans value is so good on DraftKings that I'd rather, like, dare I say, fade McCollum for tournaments and play somebody else, like, or play Markkanen instead of the 70% Kuzma. You know, like I'd rather get different with the higher price ceiling guys, than I don't want to mess with this Pelicans value too much, to be honest with you. If that's Rudy Gay would be in place of, or something like that.
I think I agree with you there. And depending on the position, like if it's power forward specifically, I guess that's your best option. But if it's the utility, I would rather Hernan-Gomez. And then if it's the forward position, I would rather Dyson Daniels. We can swap it over to NFL, I think, after we hit some YouTube questions here. We got enough likes. Make sure you hit the like button there anyways. DKGPP, Gafford or Kessler?
Gafford.
Me too. And throwing that one back to the Hernan-Gomez or Collins question, I feel like I'd go with Collins if you have Jonas Valanciunas if you're in your lineup, but if you don't, then it's definitely Hernan-Gomez. I would probably play Hernan-Gomez or JV in all of my lineups today. Josh Richardson, good for a GPP on FanDuel. I think that's a reasonable question because I got him in one of my two lineups right now, and that's a QQ I have for you guys. What do you like better? Josh Richardson, Corey Kispert, and Lauri Markkanen, or Devin Vassell, Troy Brown Jr., and Jeremy Sohan?
Oh, God.
One ugly player in each of those teams.
Give me
Yeah,
the first one.
Yeah, I'll say the first one.
I think Lawrence got more upside than Devin Vassell, like straight up. You get what I'm saying?
And I think Vassell's going to be chalky, and if he doesn't perform well, Josh Richardson probably could have a decent game. And I'm kind of looking at their roster. They got Langford, Vassell, and Trey Jones starting. So who's going to play the point guard for their second unit? It's going to be Josh Richardson, and those are probably going to be some pretty valuable minutes. I think that's it for the basketball QQs. Should we swap it over to NFL?
Yeah, I just brought up the Fanduel. Let me see. There we go. Wow, look what we got
Nice,
there.
Steve.
That's right. Trevor's bringing us in,
Steve.
coming in hot. Hopefully not. Hopefully both of these teams stink tonight. They kick a bunch of punts. The running backs go off. The quarterbacks do nothing. The receivers do nothing. I hope these offenses just turn around and hit the ball off.
And what do you think that's likely? Now that's a good segue, a good lead in here. Roth had the game labeled as red. He now has it labeled as orange, but he's tweeting updates, and there's still going to be rain. There's still going to be wind. It should be ugly, all things considered. That being said, looking at FanDuel here at MVP, let me ask you this: do you guys both think this game is going to be low scoring? Let me ask you this straight up.
Yes.
TJ?
And here's why.
Yes, I don't trust
Zach Wilson. I don't trust Zach Wilson, and the Jets defense is good. So Zach Wilson will limit the Jets offense, and the Jets defense should limit the Jaguars passing game. I hope it does not affect Travis Etienne and Zonovan Knight.
Okay.
I think this game goes over the total, though. We were talking about this a bit earlier, Luch. Other than just them being from Jacksonville and living in Florida, I feel like Jacksonville's team is set up well for this. A lot of dynamic players and gadget players who run a lot of kind of confusing motions, handoffs out of the backfield. I feel like they're the kind of team that'll run a ton of screen passes with a ton of skill players, and all they need is 2 or 3 of those to be broken over the course of a game for them to kind of blow up their player props and blow up this under.
Well, yeah, and I'm looking at like a low-owned Jamal Agnew who played only 15-16% of the snaps. But if we're talking tournaments, he's a gadgety guy who could also carry the ball once in a while. I think there's a lot of interesting takes on both sides. So let me just start with this. MVP-wise, I think, there's a chance both quarterbacks struggle. You look at the running backs who are also carrying a little bit of ownership here. Like there's a couple different ways you can go at MVP, including the defenses, TJ. I like there's so many outcomes with the weather and the volatile quarterback play. On the Jet side, I know Lawrence has been pretty good lately, but he's playing in bad weather. We'll see what happens. So give me some MVP thoughts here, and then I'll pass it over to Chief.
Yeah, so almost 200 people watching on YouTube here. If we get to 75 likes, I got 3 low-owned values that I think are GPP winners for us today. So get us up to 75 likes, and then I got some spicy GPPs values for us. But FanDuel value, FanDuel MVP, like it's still Trevor Lawrence is my favorite person to go with here for one of 2 reasons. One, he is a quarterback, and depending on where you look, the highest projected player on the slate, and he's not the highest projected owned MVP. So whenever I see a QB that is not garbage, who is not the highest projected owned MVP, I'm interested in that. And so Lawrence is going to be my favorite. ATN is going to be the second on FanDuel, but I give the slight edge to Trevor Lawrence from an optimal standpoint. And then if I'm not rolling with one of those guys, if I'm trying to get very different, I think my favorite one to roll with in that spot, like moderately different, it's the Jags or the Jets, but they're probably still going to get 5%, 5 to 10% ownership. And so if I'm trying to get very different, I think I'm looking at somebody like a Zay Jones, who Lawrence has just been targeting like crazy lately. It's probably just based on where they line up. Kirk, who's going to get Sauce Gardner a bit more than Zay will. And so I like Zay as a contrarian MVP in this spot, since the running backs and the defenses are probably going to get a decent amount of ownership in that MVP spot. I think going somebody like Zay is interesting.
Chief, who do you like tonight, MVP wise? And then we'll jump over to DraftKings and we'll talk some hot takes and some value pieces, and we'll take some questions then.
I'm sticking with running back here, man. It's Knight or ETN for me. I'm gonna stick with the script. It is supposed to get nasty the further we go along into the game. Initially, I think the report was it was going to be raining when the game started and then get progressively worse. And now I think it's going to be okay when the game starts. It's going to start, I think, late in the first half and then get progressively worse, I think, throughout. I think that was the last tweet from Roth, if I'm not mistaken. It starts to rain in the first half and gets progressively worse. So if it starts raining in the first half and it's supposed to get worse, then the halftime is actually going to be on our side, because it should be worse when they come back out. So unless these quarterbacks are going to say, hey, just let us throw the ball as much as we can in the first half, because we won't be able to throw it all in the second half, I'm going to lean on the running games here. And once again, I will say this again. It's Thursday. It's a short week. So we always see issues on Thursdays, no matter how good the teams are. And I'm hoping that the Jets defense tames the Jaguars offense in the first half, and the Jaguars offense plays just enough to keep a really bad Zach Wilson quarterback in check. And if we do that, the running games are going to pop off here. I am in agreement. I understand that, excuse me, a screen play could happen and these guys could go to the house. Like, I get it big time. But I like the running backs here.
For a flex option, I like your thought. I'm going to piggyback off that, and I kind of like Michael Carter tonight. I know, like, Zach Wilson hasn't targeted these running backs a lot, but he might not have a choice if it gets uglier. Carter's played 50+% of the snaps in 3 of the last 4 weeks, and he's run over the last 2 games. Michael Carter has ran 51 routes compared to Zonovan Knight's 21. And I tell you what, I don't know if you caught any of the Jets game last week, but Michael Carter was the better back in the second half. Who knows what the Jets are going to do? I know Zonovan Knight got a bulk of the volume, but let's not pretend he's Marshall Falk, right? So I think Carter's pretty sneaky for the flex. I'm going to move over to DraftKings. I'll throw it back over to you, TJ.
Before you do, I think we should cover quick, just kind of like the optimal build for Fanduel. We do have some questions in the Discord for that already. So I think whether you're captaining Knight, Etienne, or Lawrence, we have the value on this slate that you're playing all 3 of those guys in an optimal lineup. Regardless of which one you want to captain, both of those running backs. Lawrence is just going to be very involved, not only for screen passes and such, but he should be running a decent amount today. My hot take for this one is I think Lawrence runs for more than 75 yards in this game. But I think those are the 3 you want to prioritize in your lineups. And then in terms of Fanduel value, I agree. I like Michael Carter as an option, but we didn't quite get enough likes, but whatever. I don't really care because I got to get these takes out. Specifically for Fanduel at $5K minimum price, Chris Streveler got called up to the Jets today. He's active. He's a backup quarterback, yes, but he's also a wildcat guy. He's a runner. He's fast, and he's just like a short bowling ball. The guy's big, strong, fast. He's probably going to be getting in there for a lot of wildcat, short yardage type scenarios. And heck, if something happens to Wilson, he could end up playing the entire game because I could see them wanting to go with him in there instead of Flacco for this type of game. So I think he's super interesting for tournaments because even if he's only on the field for 5 plays, it might be a red zone rushing touchdown. And then my 2 favorite values, just based on the type of game, we think this is going to be a lot of running, a lot of screen pass type stuff, it's Jamal Agnew and Braxton Berrios. Like, I feel like those guys are going to be extra involved in both of their team's offenses today, and they make for great salary saving options.
I like the Strevler call. I mean, no one's going to really own him. He's not going to be owned much. Man, who is the Brad Smith? Is it Brad Smith was their Wildcat guy a few years ago, right? Is he the new Brad Smith? I don't know, but he wasn't brought up last week. So here we are. Maybe this is significant. Maybe it's not, but it's
2 hot takes for you. Trevor Lawrence rushes for over 75 yards. And then number 2 is that Chris Strevler has at least 7 rushing attempts in this game.
I don't hate that. That would make me a happy guy. Chief, we'll talk DraftKings. I want to say this, though. By the way, I did bet Lawrence over 10.5 rushing yards earlier today. Lawrence's passing yards number plummeted today, Chief. I got under 214.5 at like 11 Eastern this morning, and it's down to like 205.5 on some books right now. Give me a little prop callers. I know you're working on something over there.
Listen, I'm in kind of some oddball props tonight, just because of the situation. And you guys know I'll give you everything I have. So I'm in some tackle props. If you can find that on the books, and you should. On Prize Picks, I've got Mosley over 8 tackles and Lloyd over 6 tackles. And it's mainly game script, right? These guys are going to be running. Typically, linebackers pick up a fair amount of tackles in the run game. So I've got Mosley over 8, Lloyd over 6. I took both punters over punts. They've got Logan Cook at 4, Braden Mann at 4.5. I took both over. And this was earlier. I was able to get this one in. He's bumped up now. I took a lot more Travis Etienne over 16 rush attempts. He's up to 17.5 now. I also took Jermichael Hasty over 7.5 rushing yards, just because if they keep running, I think at some point they're not going to run Etienne 25 times. So I think Hasty comes in, gets 3 or 4 carries this game at 7.5. I mean, I just felt like that was a profitable strategy. So I got some of him. I took Zach Wilson under 250 in the pass plus rush yards. I know he was able to get off against Detroit last week, but who's not able to get off against Detroit? With the weather conditions, I'm playing the weather angle, so I took the under there. Let's see, anything else? Those are my main ones for football. I took some under reception props as well. Like I caught one where I think Elijah Moore was at 3.5. I took him under. I think I caught one with Christian Kirk at 4.5. I think I took under for him because of the Gardner effect. I do think Sauce will be on Kirk, which should keep his receptions a lot lower than usual. So those are some of the ones I'm on. And if you're on the sports websites, not the actual books, but prop websites, excuse me, then you'll probably see that those props have shifted in my direction. Christian Kirk sitting at 4 receptions, Garrett Wilson sitting at 4, Elijah Moore sitting at 2.5, so forth and so on, because they're expecting the pass game to take a dip for sure.
Yeah, worth noting, Corey Davis is back this week as well. Got any Discord questions for NFL TJ? I mean, it's 8:08 Eastern. I'd rather hit some of these questions with people who are demanding some analysis here, and then we can just keep talking.
Favorite contrarian MVP for a FanDuel GPP? Somewhat contrarian for me. It's going to be the Jags defense. Very contrarian. It's going to be Strevler or Zay Jones. Or Michael Carter.
I like both defenses, and I don't know if it's a complete dog crap game. I wanted to say something else, obviously. Then it's possible, like someone that scores 1 touchdown has a chance to be optimal. I don't know. Zach Wilson likes CJ Uzomah. I don't know why. Unlikely, but possible. He hates Tyler Conklin. Trust me, I'm a Conklin season-long investor. Any other questions over there?
We got a YouTube question in terms of how on earth can I say that Chris Strevler was not that good in the CFL before he moved to the NFL? How do I think he made it to the NFL if he wasn't very good? Look, this is a dude in the season that he started. He had 8 touchdowns and 14 interceptions with a barely over 50% completion rate. He is not a good quarterback. The reason why he made it to the NFL is specifically because he can run and he can play special teams too. He played some special teams for the Cardinals for a while, in addition to being their short yardage QB. That same season that he threw 8 touchdowns and 14 interceptions in the CFL, he had almost 800 rushing yards and 12 rushing touchdowns. So he runs. He's just made perfectly for this type of game. And so he's not, and nor was he ever a good QB, but he's the type of football player who should absolutely flourish in this one. That's basically it for questions. And I think now we can just talk until we're there.
Yeah, who do you prefer, Christian Kirk or Zay Jones tonight, guys?
Zay, if I had to choose,
I like Zay too, just because I think with how lining up on the outside, I think Kirk is going to end up being the one who draws more Sauce Gardner.
Let's see, CJ Uzomah or Tyler Conklin, if you had to pick one.
I don't want to play either of those guys.
I'm pulling up Gridiron IQ.
I will say this, man. If this game was clean, I really would have been into some Evan Ingram, whose target share has just really picked up over the past couple of weeks. But I just don't see it happening tonight.
But he still may be involved enough that he could be optimal. He's cheaper than Kirk. He's cheaper than Zay. I think you can play him, but I wouldn't play those other two receivers with him. I like the Ingram call. I think he should be demanding some more ownership here. And by the way, if you guys and gals aren't using Gridiron IQ, you're missing out on a lot of good info that's literally right in front of your face. This is why I kind of like Michael Carter for stops. I'll just run it by you. I'll flip to the Jets here. You can see that the Jaguars are giving up the highest target percentage to running backs at the 7th easiest success rate here. So, if the weather's bad and the Jets and Zach Wilson's going to take what Jacksonville's going to give him whenever he decides to throw it tonight, I think we could see Michael Carter involved. So that kind of pointed me in the direction of Carter there. TJ, I know you had a million takes today. Got anything else for DraftKings? Oh, we got a question from Bill in the YouTube. Excuse me. How much is too much to leave on the table for NFL? I made a couple large field builds where, I'm leaving 4 to 5K on the table. I mean, if you think it's going to be ugly and you want to drop all the way down to one of those defenses instead of a higher priced player, I think you can leave a boatload of money on the table today for NFL. What do you guys think?
Yeah.
Okay.
Insert the GIF of Lindsay Lohan from Mean Girls. The limit does not exist.
Yeah, I'm not a big Mean Girls.
It's a classic. Come on, I got $14,000 left on the table in one of my teams.
14K. That'll be unique. That'll count as one unique lineup. That's for sure. 2
defenses, a running back, a QB, and a kicker.
Okay.
And the QB is a backup.
I don't hate that. Man, the more I'm sitting here, the more I wish I had a little more Corey Davis just coming back after missing a game. And, we don't know. There's not going to be a ton of volume tonight through the air. And I know Garrett Wilson's incredible. Hurry. Lawrence or Goff? Goff's not on the slate. Is he?
He's talking about season long, and the answer is Lawrence.
Who does Detroit got this week again?
They got a bad matchup, and it's going to be terrible weather there too.
Oh man, is Gardner Minshew
available? Williams and DeAndre Swift all day. I think Lawrence is gonna have a good day, fantasy wise. I really do.
I mean, he can make up ground. He can make up ground on the ground with his projection. If he chooses to. I know he was battling a toe injury, but I think both quarterbacks are going to have to tuck and run a little bit tonight, guys. I really do. 8:14 Eastern. Hit that save button on your lineups if you haven't already.
Lawrence finishes with 255 yards passing, 75 yards on the ground, 2 touchdowns in the air, and 1 on the ground.
That will not make me happy, personally. I don't think it would make Chief happy either.
Look, so here's what I didn't do. I didn't play any Lawrence on any of the sites because I trust him more than Zach Wilson. I feel comfortable taking Zach Wilson unders because if things get bad, I think they'll just try to run the ball down Jacksonville's throat. If the weather gets as bad as we think, then I love my stance here, which is I'm leaning on the running game. But once again, it's supposed to be rough late, not early. So, any of these receivers now could catch a touchdown the first drive, and then boom, and then that's the slate. Because after that, they won't catch anything. You get what I'm saying? It's like, trying to running around weather. Typically, what I do is I pick a side and I stick with it. And that way I'm not caught in the conundrum of, oh, do I do this, do that? I pick a side, I roll with it. And if I'm right, I'm going to.
Yeah, this is
I don't get people tonight, man. Like, to me, like I was talking about, like the 3 plays for value that I think makes so much sense. It's like the Strevler one I understand was very sneaky, but like the Agnew and Berrios should be very involved in the offense. They provided good salary saving options on FanDuel. We got Agnew at 4.6% ownership, Berrios at 3%, and Strevler at 0.4%.
Our projected ownership was pretty much right, spot on with those guys too. So shout out to our projections team.
They crushed it. I think the field just didn't today. I could be wrong. Maybe I'm gonna put up a 0 spot tonight.
We'll see. That's it. Ladies and gentlemen, thanks for sticking with us. We appreciate you dropping all the questions. Hopefully we helped you tonight. And you guys got anything else, or should we head out of here?
Let's head out of here. Make sure you're tuned into our content for tomorrow, because we got a ton of it. We got 14 game NBA slate tomorrow, and then there's Christmas Eve football, Christmas Day basketball. So we got a lot of stuff coming. I know I'm on the morning grind with Stevie tomorrow. Got a FanDuel Friday show coming with you, Luch, for NFL or for NBA, and one with Andre for NFL. So lots of good content coming. Make sure you stay tuned.
Chief, any parting words?
Good luck, everybody. Merry Christmas. See you tomorrow on the Blitz Show.
Yeah, hey, we're not going anywhere. We got content all weekend. We still got crunch time. We got some Christmas Eve shows for NBA. So stick with us here when you can. If you got to run to the bathroom or run out to the car and check us out in the live stream when you're exchanging gifts or at dinner or whatever you're doing, then come out and hang out with us whenever you can sneak out for a little bit. So we'll get out of here. For the Chief, for TJ, and for producer Steve, I'm the Luch. Have a good night and good luck, everybody.